I'm officially 3 for 3 on being fined by the WNBA.
Holy shit. For this? For the pod? Again?
They didn't like my comments on Paige Becker's.
No way.
I didn't even say anything bad.
This is getting messy. The voices keep rising, sharper, angrier. The frustration is boiling over, and people are starting to say the unthinkable out loud. Everywhere online, Sophie Cunningham's fans are done pretending. Their patience has snapped. They're demanding answers, demanding the silence end. And the blame? Pointed straight at an organization that looks obsessed with controlling the story instead of protecting their athletes or admitting what's really happening in the shadows.
She spoke about the league, but more importantly, she stated she got another fine for actually talking about Paige Becker's. Now, we all ultimately know what happened last time. She had her podcast. She let it be known that Paige Becker's got that blue blood whistle, bro. And make a long story short, she stated the WNBA fined her for that. And she spoke about Bree Hartley. She also talked about Caitlin Clark rehab. But guys, it's unfortunate that she will be out for the remainder.
And get this, the outrage is spreading like wildfire. Fans aren't just cheering, they're insisting Cunningham keeps speaking out. Because if the WNBA is really going to punish players just for sharing their opinions, then something is seriously broken inside this league. What's unfolding isn't even about basketball anymore. It's about an organization that seems to have completely abandoned the idea of free speech, especially when it's their own employees daring to talk.
The WNBA have done it. They have done it. They have officially fined Sophie Cunningham every podcast episode. They have fined her because Sophie Cunningham has been fined. I'm not joking. She's been fined for a TikTok. She's been fined now, I think, for the 3rd time for a podcast. I think Sophie Cunningham might be the all-time leader in fines in the WNBA. So let's take a listen.
Sophie Cunningham, now seen by many as the voice of truth in women's basketball, has finally broken her silence on this relentless campaign to force her into submission. And her words? They expose everything twisted about how the WNBA really operates. What began as simple, honest commentary on her podcast has spiraled into a full-blown war on transparency. And the kicker? Cunningham isn't flinching. She's flat out refusing to bow down.
They are not protecting their players. Nobody's going to watch this if you're not protecting your star players. You're not protecting your players, period. But particularly your star players. No one's going to watch this. People are watching it because of Caitlin Clark, and then even more because of Sophie Cunningham. And if you're going to just hang them out to dry, then, good. Nobody's going to watch this anymore because they don't protect their players. It's a worthless organization. They have no idea how to protect their players. But, oh man, they're going to bitch and moan. Well, you better pay us the money. For what? You can't even protect your star players that draw the eyeballs. Now nobody's watching. Nobody's going to watch to see the star players sitting out with injuries because of poor treatment and poor officiating on the sides. Nobody's going to watch that.
But here's where it turns insane. What should have been a normal podcast, just hoops and life talk, cracked open another ugly chapter in the WNBA's obsession with controlling every single narrative inside their walls. Sophie started her podcast, Show Me Something, with co-host Wes Wilson, thinking it'd be a space for real, honest conversations about her own league. Instead, she learned fast, speaking truth to power comes with a brutal price.
She has turned herself into a top 5 most talked about player in the WNBA. And can I tell you, I am loving the clips that are coming out of this podcast. There's just so much fascinating elements of her that make her this really alpha, really strong, but really beautiful, spicy villain. And I think she kind of likes being
I'm officially 3 for 3 on being fined by the WNBA. Cunningham confessed on her latest podcast. And the frustration in her voice was impossible to miss. She's seen firsthand how the league values control over honesty, even finding her for comments about Paige Becker's that weren't even negative. But here's the twist. This time, Sophie refused to be muzzled. These fines felt less like discipline and more like intimidation. And with every new episode, the punishment grows, leaving everyone to wonder if honest conversation is even allowed in the WNBA anymore.
I'm officially 3 for 3 on being fined by the WNBA.
Holy shit. For this? For the pod? Again?
They didn't like my comments on Paige Becker's.
No way.
I didn't even say anything bad.
On the whistle, on the quick whistle.
Yeah. But like, why? Like,
If we want to talk about Paige, here's a good question.
They fined her for saying Paige Beckers has a good whistle. Like, I kid you not, that is one of the craziest reasons I've seen a player get fined.
Plot twist. What happened next was something the WNBA had never seen before. Just days after Sophie exposed the league's shady fine structure, fans erupted, not only rallying behind her as a player, but as a fearless truth teller willing to risk it all. Social media blew up, crowning her the voice the league can't control, demanding the WNBA stop silencing anyone who doesn't play into their polished narrative. And when Sophie finally spoke about this systematic targeting, her words sliced through the league's empty diplomacy like a blade through paper.
Seriously wrong with how the W enforces their rules. And I know there's already been a big emphasis on referee inconsistencies, but at the end of the day, the quality of referees is on the WNBA too. Because again, I have no idea where the line is. Because on one hand, I kind of get it. It's normal for a league to fine you if you're going to talk bad about the league or the players in the league. Because that happens all the time in the NBA, NFL, and so on. But on the other hand, why does the league not care about its image when players are standing over and cursing out their opponents on the court? Like, where was the enforcement here? Or where was it here? Or where was it when the whole entire league was bullying your star player? And this stuff is happening all the time in the WNBA, but why is it only called on occasion? Which is why fining Sophie Cunningham every time she has a podcast seems kind of crazy, because the WNBA obviously chooses when and when not to.
Let me break this down, because this is what makes Cunningham's entire situation so alarming. She's not being fined for spreading lies or for saying anything extreme. No, she's being punished for the kind of basic observations any reasonable person could make about officiating consistency and league operations. The WNBA has basically created a system where honest commentary about their own product automatically leads to financial punishment regardless of accuracy or intent. And the pattern is impossible to ignore. She was slapped with a $500 fine for a harmless TikTok that simply lip-synced lyrics while mentioning referees. Then came a $1,500 fine for pointing out officiating inconsistencies in her very first podcast episode. And most recently, yet another undisclosed fine, this one for daring to note referees appear to hand favorable calls to Dallas Wings rookie Paige Buchers. Seriously.
Do they, when you get fined, do they put like verbatim, like quote here, like this is why you're being fined and that's why it's this much? Or is it like, hey, quit talking shit on us, Venmo us like 1,500?
No. What happens is they email our GM, and she pulls me aside and she goes, "Come here, Soph, I have to talk to you." And this was in like front of everybody. And I was like, "What did I do now?" And she just smiled and she goes, "Hey, they're going to fine you again." They're like, I was like, I even told them, I even credited them that their job was hard. I did say that. And I
As
said,
for those so-called offensive comments, Cunningham didn't backtrack. She flat out admitted, "I did say that. I'll own it." She's not denying a single word. And that honesty is exactly what makes the league's response look so heavy-handed.
like, look at the whole picture. What are we doing?
But let's be brutally honest about what's really happening here. This isn't about preserving league standards, and it sure isn't about protecting reputations. No, this is about an organization so obsessed with its image that it's willing to financially punish its own players for making the same observations millions of fans make every single night. The WNBA's treatment of Cunningham is nothing short of disgraceful. Instead of confronting the very real concerns she's raised about officiating, expansion, and league operations, the league has chosen to impose what feels like a financial gag order. Even Rebecca Lobo has admitted there are genuine problems with officiating. Yet, when a current player dares to say the same thing, she's immediately hit with fines. And here's the chilling reality Cunningham's ordeal has exposed. The WNBA has built an atmosphere of fear, a culture where players second-guess every word, terrified of speaking honestly about their own league.
Cunningham tweeted about getting fined, basically saying that she thinks it's laughable and that the league probably has bigger issues they should be focusing on. Now, WNBA officiating has faced major scrutiny all season long from some of the league's biggest stars and coaches. You can find a ton of articles about it online where they're all calling for more consistency. One of the more quotable examples came from Angel Reese after the Chicago Sky lost to the Minnesota Lynx on July 6th. Reese said that the officiating has to be fixed. She said, "I don't give a you-know-what if I get fined because that stuff is cheap and I'm tired of this stuff." You get the point. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert addressed the officiating ahead of the All-Star game last weekend. She said that it is something that the league is continuing to work on and that they are on it. Engelbert mentioned that
Cunningham's refusal to back down, taking fine after fine just to tell her fans the truth, has completely exposed a system built to silence dissent rather than confront real problems. "You fining me $500 isn't going to do anything," she declared on her podcast, before warning, "and then I'll get fined for that, and fined for this, and the fines will just keep coming." She knows exactly what the league is trying to pull. This isn't a naive player who stumbled into controversy. This is someone making a deliberate choice to value transparency over financial safety. And the reaction from fans says it all. Social media erupted with raw frustration. "This league is so messed up, and I hate the WNBA sometimes. Sophie, keep calling out their nonsense." The message is clear. Fans aren't just standing with Cunningham. They're turning their anger directly on a league they now view as fundamentally dishonest.
She'll happily pay those fines. I think they're only fining like $200 or something. It's something crazy. Like Sophie Cunningham is making millions this year. Players don't get fined for speaking on one another, but every single player in the history of pro basketball has criticized officiating and fined for it. No, she keeps doing the same thing, getting fined for it. She literally said Paige is a good whistle. That is what she said. She said Paige, the Paige fans, my God, Paige fans are fucked.
But let's get real for a second. The WNBA's approach isn't just wrong, it's flat out stupid from a business standpoint. Sophie Cunningham has become one of the most magnetic personalities in women's basketball, building a massive social media following and producing content that actually drives fan engagement. Her podcast has turned into must-listen material for WNBA fans who are starving for authentic voices from inside the league. Yet, instead of embracing this organic marketing goldmine, the league has chosen to brand her as a problem, something to silence rather than celebrate. That decision alone speaks volumes about their broken priorities. Look at the NBA. When players criticize officiating, sure, they might face fines, but those fines are proportional to million-dollar salaries, and the comments usually have to be harsh or inflammatory. In the WNBA, players are getting slapped with hundreds or even thousands of dollars in penalties for the most basic, reasonable observations, the kind that wouldn't even get noticed anywhere else. And here's where it gets truly alarming. It's not about a single fine anymore. It's about the toxic culture of fear the league has created. Multiple insiders confirm other players share Sophie's concerns, but they won't say a word publicly. Why? Because they've watched what happens to anyone who dares to speak.
He literally, when I tell you, y'all, I literally feel like they are just coming for her because I feel like she should be able to say what she wants to say on her podcast. But that's just me. That's just how I feel. Then they came and then it came an earlier $500 penalty. I guess for a TikTok video, she was mocking the referees and lip singing. That was funny. So now I got a question for y'all. Do you think that she should be able to say what she wants on her own podcast? Or do you feel like, she should just shut it down? And, stop bothering them.
Here's the cold reality check. Cunningham's fans now have options the league never saw coming. They've already shown they'll follow her anywhere for authentic content and brutally honest commentary about the game they love. So the real question isn't whether her supporters will stick around while she keeps racking up fines. The real question is whether the WNBA can survive the self-inflicted reputational disaster of trying to muzzle its most authentic voice. Sophie's rise as a player willing to eat financial penalties just to speak the truth has given fans something they didn't even realize they were missing. Someone who flat out refuses to be controlled by league office intimidation. But it's also shined a glaring light on just how broken this system really is. When the league's first response to honesty is financial punishment, when fans cheer more for a player's bravery to speak out than for her actual on-court performance, when social media celebrates defiance against fines more than league milestones, when truth-telling turns into a liability instead of a marketing goldmine, that's when you know the organization has completely lost the plot.
The amount of traction that episode was getting, folks were saying that she could pay that off just from her YouTube monetization. And so this is just interesting because I've said before that I really wish the WNBA as well as other sports leagues would lean in to the athlete-owned media platforms, because fans are a lot more interested in hearing the perspective of people who actually play the sport than just spectators and people on the outside. So the fact that they are penalizing her for showcasing her frustrations, even though tons of players have done this, post-game interviews or just talked about it on the internet in general, is very interesting.
The WNBA has twisted what should have been a showcase for authentic player voices into a cautionary tale about corporate control and paranoia. Sophie Cunningham's Show Me Something podcast should have been welcomed as the perfect kind of content, a direct line between players and fans, offering raw insight from someone who actually lives the game. Instead, the league has dragged itself to the edge of a breaking point. Their campaign to silence Sophie is building toward a spectacular backfire. The fines haven't slowed, they've escalated, each new episode triggering fresh panic in the league office about what she might dare to say next. And every move the organization makes is painfully tone-deaf, obsessed with message control instead of solving the real issues Sophie has called out. The most damning part of all this? It exposes the WNBA's complete failure to deal with authenticity. They're literally sitting on a goldmine of unfiltered player content, voices that could deepen fan connection and grow the sport in ways no marketing department ever could. Yet their response has been to punish honesty with financial penalties, a system that silences truth while showing just how little the league actually trusts its own players.